But so our final presenter is Destiny Goodson. I really got a chance, and the rest of my cohort 16 members, to visit Destiny on our internship to Avenue, Virginia. And I don't want to go into it because that will be for me next year when I do my DFB. But Destiny, there's Destiny.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. As stated before, my name is Destiny, and this is a toothbrush. Now you're all giggling, of course, you're like, it's a toothbrush. But let me tell you about the story of this toothbrush. So that's the type of toothbrush that Dr. Todd Pillion would put into the bags of his patients, ranging from the ages of about 3 to 15 after their oral exams. He's a dentist in my community, and I learned through his work as a dentist that at the same time he had been working as a legislator, working 40 hours a week as a dentist, and then spending his afternoons and his weekends writing laws about the opioid epidemic. Now he seems like a myth, but I promise after I tell you about my 13-week internship, you'll believe he exists. So more about myself. My name is Destiny Goodson. I'm a political science major and a law, ethics, and society minor. I'm a junior. I work for Major Giving here on campus, and I'm a wellness TA. I'm from Honaker, Virginia, and I was a part of EPG Cohort 15. Now before I can begin telling you about how I found my internship and the search for that, I have to tell you about this conference. So around this time, 2018, I found out that I did not want to do education. I was almost failing physics, I was failing my education class, and I knew I needed something else. The labor program had invited me to come to this conference, the Work College Consortium. I got to meet many influential leaders such as Mitch McConnell, as seen here, Rand Paul, and I visited many historical sites and learned more about lawmaking. It was in that moment where I was like, wow, I really like this. I think this is what I want to do. So when I got home, I started looking for internships. I researched places that I thought would be cool to be at, and then I applied to them. Unfortunately, a lot of them did not want me. This internship in particular was very special to me. It was the one I wanted the most. So I had called their office shortly after coming back from that conference, and I said, I would love to work for you. This is the Virginia 9th District U.S. Congressman. I knew him, I've met him, I wanted to work for him in D.C. He told, the first legislative aide that I talked to said that they were impressed with my work, and they would love to have me. But in that January, they had a staff switch. And though that new staffer gave me an interview and I sent them packets with my resume, they ultimately decided to move forward with a different candidate. So that ended that. So I began looking at home. I called my mom and she said, well, why don't you just come home for the summer? I said, okay. So I want to stress right now, I am from Southwest Virginia, not Southwest Virginia. I know it gets confusing. A little bit about my area. So the average income is about $37,000 a year, comparatively low to the average income in the state of Virginia of $65,000 a year. They're rural communities. The largest city in this area is Bristol, Virginia, with a population right over 50,000. Main exports include coal, natural gas, and tobacco, although tobacco is ostracized because it's also grants from the government for industry through tobacco. And finally, one problem that's very prevalent in this area is the opioid epidemic. For example, there it is. Right here in Wise County, there's a city called Norton. That is one of the worst cities in the entire nation for the opioid epidemic. It's about an hour from my house. Speaking of my house, I'm from that county right there, Russell County, and I worked in Washington. So I took my mom's advice and I started applying to internships at home. The first was with Virginia Senator Ben Chapin. He had been our family lawyer for years, and I thought, well, it'd be cool to work for him. I called his office, and to my surprise, I was the first person ever to apply for an internship there. However, the legislative aide that worked there was getting ready to move positions, so they decided that it wouldn't be a good idea to have an intern this summer with that switch. So I lost that one too. However, since they were so impressed to finally see someone in the district interested in internships, they called around all the different local offices that they knew, one of them being Todd Pillion's office. And it was in that moment, they called the office, they wanted me, I wanted them. It worked out great. So let me tell you a little bit more about Virginia legislation. It's part-time legislation. Many of these individuals work full-time jobs while they're legislators because they have 60-day sessions. For example, with the part-time, Dr. Pillion is a dentist, Ben Chafin is a lawyer, Israel Quinn is a businessman. There's 100 districts in the House of Delegates, and then there's 40 in the Senate. Now I have a pop quiz for you all. Who can tell me why these districts over here in Southwest Virginia are so much larger than those in the corner?
Population density?
Absolutely, that's right. So where you see such as up there, that's Fairfax County, and then just in those tiny districts, there's probably more population than there is in the 4th District where I work, covering parts of Dickinson County, Russell County, Washington County, and Wise. My internship was split up into 2 parts, the first being working with Todd Pillion's delegate office. I got to work with schools. I made little certificates for 5th graders who had just graduated elementary school. I wrote letters to principals wishing them a happy academic year. In addition, we would have constituents call our office. Sometimes it would be something as simple as they had a tree in the road and they wanted the Department of Transportation to go move it. And finally, I also got to check the mail and read the handwritten constituent letters people would write, whether it be about abortion or taxes. Here's some events I got to attend as the representative of our office. This was the opening of the franchise Beef O'Brady's in Abingdon and a bed and breakfast to gather in. I was even given a state flag flown at Capitol for my work in the delegate office. Remember how I said it was 2 parts? Here's the second part. Todd Pillion has been working for the House of Delegates since 2014 in a special election, and he decided that he would like to move forward and run in the Senate. Rather than serving parts of 4 different counties, he would be serving a whole 3 counties and parts of 4 in the 40th District. Through this position, I would research donors and give them information about Pillion so that they would donate. I would put out campaign signs, and I would electioneer and attend events getting the word out about Dr. Pillion. So here I am at the Republican primary electioneering, telling this wonderful woman about Dr. Pillion. We can pretend that's me researching donors because I didn't have any other picture. Here I am with all the Republican candidates for Washington County. I got to work with them at a food bank for a day. And that's one of the 1,000, no exaggeration, 1,000 campaign signs that I put together, and one of the possibly like 50 that I put all over the district. You get weird looks when you put them out. Here's some things that I love doing that didn't fit in either too. So as JJ said, EPG Cohort 16 came and visited me at my internship. I got to explain to them the importance of local and state legislation, as well as the process that I had went through to find my internship. Miss Peggy was the custodian for the small business incubator where I worked. It was her birthday, and she doesn't like cake, so we got her a birthday biscuit. And that little cutie is Evie. So my sister lives in Abingdon, and every day for my lunch hour, I would go to my sister's and I would share blueberries with Evie and spend that hour with them. I know, aren't they cute? So I want to talk about some key learning points I had as a political science major. One was I learned the importance of fundraising and name recognition. I can't stress to you within those 13 weeks how much I spent researching donors, contacting donors, always making sure that Todd Pillion's name is out there so he could get the vote. I learned more about conservative values. I'm going to be honest, I always considered myself someone with more liberal leanings. So it was nice to be in an office, and for 13 weeks my own ideas were challenged. And I feel like I became a more well-rounded liberal arts student and political science major through this. And the Trump effect, I know some of these are funny. Everyone in Southwest Virginia that was running on the conservative ticket, and even a few independents, wanted to tie their name with Donald Trump's name. In Southwest Virginia, Donald Trump had up to 75% of the vote, and in some counties 80 when it came to the 2016 election. People wanted to have their names with his in hopes that, oh, if they like Trump, then I'll probably like them too. One of the things that really was important for me this summer in learning was the importance of relations, not networks. Who cares if you get a business card if the person, you never reach out to them, they don't know your name, they don't know your face. So I made sure that the relations that I made were deliberate and they know who I was, and I felt like I could count on them and they could count on me. One of them was Miss Jean Gallagher. Miss Jean was the head executive of the small business incubator. She taught me a lot about Abingdon politics and some about real estate. I didn't think I would learn about that. And this is Rex. Rex Carter is the independent candidate for sheriff in Washington County. I went to many events with Rex, and he even called me at times asking for my opinion on what he should do with his campaign. I explained to him that I think it would be very important for him to reach younger voters. Younger voters may be swayed one way or another, so they're not, because they tend to be less firm in their political beliefs than older voters. In addition, I made sure that I stressed to him the importance of reaching these voters through social media. Rex to this day will still text me and he'll ask my opinion on campaign videos, or he'll spill tea about other candidates. One of the other things I realized in my internship, my aha moment, was one day when I was having lunch with my niece Evie. And also this is my niece Chloe. I was eating with Evie and I just got this awful feeling in my stomach because I thought about the work that I'd been doing. Earlier that day I'd been helping with the put a PowerPoint together because we were going to talk about laws that Dr. Pillion had put together with the opioid epidemic, and I just realized how impactful it was. There's family members that's been in my life that these little girls will never get to meet because they either overdosed or they committed suicide from the opioid epidemic. It was when that moment when I realized how important Dr. Pillion's work was. This is supposed to be a lot. This is every House bill Dr. Pillion has written against the opioid epidemic. I want to highlight House Bill 2161 because I think it's so important. Because you can't solve the opioid epidemic by blaming addicts. You have to blame the people who made them that way. So this bill was when Dr. Pillion asked the Secretary of Health and Health Resources to require institutions that was going to teach physicians, nurses, pharmacists, whoever, that in their curriculum they stress the importance of proper opioid abuse, making sure people did not become addicts, and made sure that these people who were writing the scripts knew exactly what they were serving. And it came full circle with myself about what I wanted to do. I was so gosh darn thankful I came home because I realized what I wanted to do. In light of this internship, I want to go to law school. I want to do what Dr. Pillion did. Dr. Pillion, through his work as a dentist, he worked nonpartisanly with both Republicans, with both Democrats. Those bills that you saw, almost all of them were unanimously passed. And I want to do that because while I think Dr. Pillion's work is great, he can't be the only one. So in light of this learning, I want to go to law school. I want to study for the LSAT, and one day I want to be a lawyer and be a politician for the area. So, you know, this is a toothbrush. I guess it's cool. But this is a girl ready to change the world. I hope you are too. Thank you. Come on, someone asked me a dumb question even. Yes.
What was the hardest thing you had to do in the internship?
Are you talking about physically or mentally? Because it sounds awful.
Yeah, I don't varying everything.
Okay.
I mean, like, hard to, you feel, I felt like you couldn't do it.
I think the hardest part of my internship was, like I said, Dr. Pillion and I consider myself more liberal and he's very conservative. I had to write this really long letter about immigration, how he was against it, and that ain't my style. So it was like, I don't want to write this, but I have to. It was like I wrote it, but I really didn't want to write that. Any other questions? Yes.
I guess, what was the most fun thing that you did during the internship?
During the internship?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a wild story. So, I messed up an entire movie set one time during work. Like, who'd have thought my small little business incubator in the middle of, like, nowhere in Abingdon. All right, in our parking lot, they were filming this movie for a Christian movie. And I, like, pull in to work because I'm like, why are these people looking at me? I just got back from lunch. Like, who are you? Do you even work here? And it turns out I had messed up an entire, it was like the best shot of the movie because it was like, you know, the kid that's been down, he's like, plays the final basketball game and he wins. Woo! I messed up the best shot in that because I drove in from lunch. I just thought that was the funniest thing. Any other questions? Yeah.
So what was it like for you to present to the next cohort when they came to visit you?
It was so exciting because, I mean, I've always loved being someone who could like provide something to others. And so it was so exciting for me to have the EPG cohort and to like, I just remember being them like a year ago and I could empathize like it's scary and you're tired and Dr. Hackbert hadn't fed you yet. But it was in that moment where I really enjoyed like, I was able to alleviate some of their, I guess, confusion, all that stuff and being like, I was there, I get you, and you can be this next year too. Anything else?
Thank you, Destiny.
You're gonna send